the background. Is Paul joining us?
Yeah, that was his intention. I think, let me just make sure.
Admit, Paul's here. Hello, this is halifaxvoice.co.uk. Today we have Ashley Evans, who is representing Whalley Ward as Lib Dem, and we've got Paul Bellinger, who is representing Greetland, is it? And he's
Greetland and Stayland.
Yes, Greetland and Stayland, and he is also the agent of Samuel Jackson, who is going to be representing Lib Dem for Park Ward. So without
Can I also say that Paul is the leader of our group as well? So you've got the boss here as well. So
yeah,
and also Ashley's agent as well.
Yes.
So you're the main guy then. Perfect.
Yeah, he's the main man.
Yeah.
He's the main man.
So let us without further ado, we've got a limited time on this because you all got busy campaigning and so forth. So let's start with Ashley first for Whalley Ward. Can you just give us a brief biography of your past and what you've been doing so far and so forth, just to get the real personality out of you guys, because oftenly what we do is we go to the polling station, put a cross against the party. So the main objective of this is to bring out the personalities of the individual candidates that are going to represent us in our local election. So without further ado, Ashley, go ahead with a brief biography.
Yeah, just a bit of background on me. I've run my own design and consultancy business for many years, and I'm getting to the point where I'm heading towards retirement, so I'm not doing much less in relation to that at the moment. But in terms of other things I get involved in, and I used to coach when I stopped being able to play. I used to coach the juniors at Old Brodlin's Rugby Club in Hipperholme, so working with young people, but in one of my preferred sports, which is rugby union. So, and a lot of work generally within the community in various community organisations, because that's always been my interest. In a political sense, I've never been an extremist. I always found Labour a bit too much to the left and the Tories a bit too much to the right, which is why I've ended up in the middle as a Liberal Democrat, because I don't think extremism is a good thing in any field of endeavour. So in the early 2000s, I became what was called a Lib Dem activist, so worked along with helping the Liberal Democrats put over their case across Calderdale. In 2010, I stood for the first time for Whalley and was elected on my first attempt, and I've been a councillor in Whalley since then, so the last 14, 15 years. Whilst being a councillor, apart from obviously all the ward work, which I think is an important thing and I'll come back to, I've also been very much again involved in the children and young people side of things. I have some years now chaired what is called the Scrutiny Committee for Children and Young People, which looks at their welfare, their mental health, their education, their social requirements and so on. So very much that, and involved in that sort of thing. This year, I was elected mayor for Calderdale. So from May 2023 to May 2024, I'm the mayor of Calderdale, and I spent a lot of time all across the borough visiting all sorts of organisations that do wonderful things. And that's one of the amazing things about being mayor, is that you meet all these fantastic people who do all sorts of things. I mean, just one particular group, I don't know whether anybody listening is aware of the 51st Pelham Scout Group. The Pelham Scout Group, they're absolutely amazing, the work they do. And they've helped us, and we've worked with them on a number of projects. And in fact, I will have the honour of presenting them with a King's Award later this week for all the work they've done in the community. So I'm very much a community person. I'm a community activist rather than a politician as such. I just happen to wear a politician's hat at the moment, and which gives me more power in some ways to influence things and improve what's going on in the community. Is that a reasonable background to me as a person?
Perfect. Just about your interests, like for example, how many your family set up? How many children do you have? Are they all grown up?
Right. Okay. I'm on my second marriage. My first marriage, 2 children. One has just turned 50.
Ooh.
Oh my God. I have a 50-year-old son. And my daughter is 45. Remarried, two kids from that, 2 boys. Very sadly, when our older boy of my marriage got to 16, he died of a congenital heart condition, which has been the basis for some of the work I'm doing as mayor, which is getting funds for the Children's Heart Surgery Fund based in Leeds, but do a lot of work in Calderdale. So they were very helpful and supportive of us as parents who lost a teenager. And we still miss him, of course, but our younger son is now in his 30s, and he lives in Leeds, in fact, now, whereas my eldest son lives in Norway. He lives in Oslo. He married a Norwegian girl. My daughter lives in Leeds as well. So that's us as a family.
Yeah, Ashley, you kind of gave your age away. You look very, very young for your age. Yeah.
I'm 77 now, but
Wow.
there we go.
Well, all I can say, you look absolutely fit. Yeah, for your age.
You're too kind.
Yeah.
You're
Now,
too kind.
moving on to Paul.
Oh, not a leap at him.
Moving on to Paul now. We've got Paul here as well, who's the agent basically for all the Lib Dem in Halifax. So please, can you give us a background yourself, Paul?
Yeah, of course I can. I actually grew up in Park Ward, funnily enough, until I was 11 years old. I lived on Lister Lane, up by the factory, Pratt Bernard's. Lived in a huge terrace property up there, so I grew up with the Asian community as they came into the area. It was quite a mixed community at the time, because I think there was a lot of maybe Irish and Polish, and then all the Asian community came in. Absolutely made some fantastic friends as well, and it was great to sort of like grow up and learn a bit of the Asian culture as well. So I left there when I was like 11 years old and moved across to a place called Wheatley. I went to a school called Lovending, which was a bit of a notorious school for being a bit rough. It then became the Ridings at the end of the day. So I've lived in areas where I've seen deprivation, where families have struggled and things like that, and where they've really struggled to put food on the table to feed the families. So I understand what it's like sometimes for families to be in that sort of position, struggling hard and trying to find a way in life and stuff like that. So I like the grassroots politics where you can actually help people and understand people. And I've always been a case of my philosophy in life is actually knowing something about everything rather than everything about something, and that way you can actually deal with every situation that you come across because you actually know a bit about that. From leaving school, I actually became a blacksmith, and I actually made tools for the stone dressing trade. And it was a proper fire with anvil and things like that. So it was the old-fashioned way of being a blacksmith. So I did an apprenticeship as a blacksmith and engineering, and then from there I did a bit of a short term in the forces. Came out of there, went into working in the markets. Around Halifax, Wakefield, Leeds, Huddersfield. That was certainly an eye-opener, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because it's such a buzz when you're working in that market environment and people work together, and you get to meet people from different walks of life. I love working with people. I love understanding people and learning from people because you meet so many amazing characters. This is probably one of the reasons why I enjoy being a politician, because I get to meet so many amazing people. From there, I went into the health industry, worked in the health industry for quite a number of years, in sort of like sales and marketing, and that's why I got a good background in the sales and marketing. From there, I went to work for Halifax Town Centre Management as an ambassador for Halifax Town Centre. And in that role, it was a case of working with the businesses within the town centre, helping the town centre to grow and thrive. But also, one of my main accolades in that was to reduce crime in Halifax Town Centre, and we reduced it by 42% over a period, I think, about 5 years, which was a huge achievement. And that was to do with the setting up of the ShopLink radio system in the town centre, assisting with the new CCTV control room for the town centre, working with businesses to identify criminals and actually pushing the criminal element out of the town, because they knew that wherever they walked within the town centre, they would be watched, they would be spotted, and they would be put off committing a crime before they actually went ahead and doing it. So it was a lot about being proactive rather than reactive in dealing with that. From there, I started up my own business within the town centre. It was a digital advertising screen above Heron Foods. Unfortunately, we ended up having to sell that. I sold that to a company in Dubai. And I think from then on, really, that was sort of like the time when I got into politics. And I was approached by the Liberal Democrats in Greetland and Stainland. And because of my knowledge of how the town centre worked, obviously working for Calderdale Council as well, that, you know, I knew how the authority worked, how things needed to be done, what people needed to contact to get things done in the area. And I didn't really want to do it to start with. I said, I'll give it some thought, gave it 12 months. And then the following year, I decided to give it a go. Unfortunately, I didn't get in on my first year. That was because there was a general election at the same time, and people's votes sort of like went towards the Conservatives, because the Conservatives must have been doing something good at that particular moment. But at least that gave me another 12 months to get my name known more within the ward. And then the following year, when there wasn't a general election, I got in, and I got in by quite a marginal amount as well. So since then, really, I've been probably in politics for the past 11 years. So this is my third term now as councillor. Well, if I get in, it will be my third term as a councillor in Greetland and Stainland. I'm also now the leader of the Liberal Democrats in Calderdale. We have a fantastic group, really, of councillors. We're a small group, but we're quite a formidable group. And our voice is, I'd say, loud for a small group as well, because we get some really thorough and important points across within the council meetings that we attend. And that's because, as Liberal Democrats, we listen to people.
Yeah.
I've always said, you've three different types of politicians. You've a politician that's in it for the money. You've a politician that's in it for climbing that political ladder to get to the top. And then your third politician is the one that's in it for the people. And I know full well that every one of my Liberal Democrat councillors in Calderdale are in it for the people. I know that. I hand on heart, 100%. I'll even put my wage on that. They're in it for the people. And there's many others.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that, Paul.
That are not, unfortunately. And that disgusts me when it comes to politics, because at the end of the day, it's the people who vote for us to be in, to represent them. We work for the people. We're answerable to the people. And that's the job we wanted to do. So those that are in it for climbing that ladder and those that are in it for the money should not be politicians in my eyes.
Yeah, just Paul.
I think that probably covers it.
Paul, just to add to this point, is that I sent an email just mainly to Park Ward, and I sent an email out to all the Labour Party candidates as well. And you're the first one to come on HXVoice.co.uk, and hopefully we will amplify your voice as the first timers on our platform. So this is a good start for yourself. And obviously you mentioned the three types of politicians. You mentioned I'm quite new to politics, as you know, and we have the Halifax Voice. We all volunteers. We're new to politics, so we're gonna try to use these three types of politicians that you mentioned as a hypothesis to prove whether what you've said now, whether it's correct or not. Yeah, and that's
I think you'll find that's right.
So as in the next couple of months, it's a learning process for us as well. And we will learn a lot from you guys, especially the three types of politicians you just mentioned now. We'll take that on board, and my team will take that on board and use that as a knowledge transfer. So you transferred knowledge to us, and we'll build upon that. So let's move on to the second question. Starting with Ashley first. What do you see as the major problems within Park Ward? and how are you going to solve them if you get selected as a councillor again?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, my response to that is in relation particularly to Warleywood. I think one of the major issues that we have is linked to what Paul's been saying, is that the other politicians, a lot of the other politicians, and dare I say, a lot of the Labour politicians, don't actually listen to what their community want them to do. They tend to have this view that they know what's best and they go ahead and do it. They often go and set up so-called communications with people to find out what they want, but they don't really listen to what people are saying or apply it to what they're actually doing. There are obvious problem areas that are true really across the whole of the borough. The condition of our roads, it's appalling. We have a local authority that just gets told about a pothole. If you shout at them often enough, they come along, they throw some asphalt into it, stamp on it and go away and leave it. They don't do a proper job in the first place. So one of the specific things we've been working on with that is to make them aware of that there is effective machinery, which costs quite a lot of money, which actually solves this problem and means you don't have to keep coming back, and leaving roads in a dreadful condition. It's what we call invest to save. Yes, you have to invest money, but in the end it saves you money, it saves you time and gives a better service to the people in the community. That's true also of things like fly tipping, which is a major problem. Rubbish dumped everywhere, all over the place. And again, a lack of positive action to serve it. One of the things I've taken the last 4 or 5 years to achieve is to get the local authority to invest in a mobile CCTV system, which means that they can locate it in areas of big problems and catch people actually throwing the rubbish around. Yes, it's awful, it's dreadful, and it needs picking up, but we also need to catch people and fine them for doing it. And something like the mobile CCTV, which has taken me 5 years to get them to do it, is something which can do that. And now we're in the process of ensuring that that is used around the Worley ward, and I guess other wards, but of course my interest is particularly Worley ward. Things like people will be aware of what's being called the local plan, where we're looking at building more houses, and particularly houses for the less well-off. Yes, we need them and we should be building more, but we have a local authority who have tended to want to build them in the easy places like greenbelt areas where there's grass and land and things like that available, because it's easy. We have competed against that, particularly in Worley, and I know Greenland and Stanley have done a similar thing where we have stopped people building houses, for example, on the Royals Head Moor, which is a really lovely open bit of land where people can walk, breathe, take their dogs for walks and so on. So we've managed to stop the building of houses in areas where we shouldn't be doing it and encourage them to build houses in what are called brownfield sites, i.e. reuse old buildings where there are already buildings there, but repurposing them as accommodation. We work very much in terms of the social care side of things. We have a problem with social care, which was highlighted to me earlier, particularly for the Muslim community in care homes where their Muslim faith, their faith is not taken into account in the way they are looked after and dealt with. I organised in collaboration with an organisation called Nur Sabil, who are very keen or interested in this area, and we worked with them to put a committee in place which called in all the officers who are responsible for care for particularly elderly people in the community, and also those who provide that care, to get them to understand that there is a need to look after the needs of individuals, and in this case the Muslim community, in terms of halal food, in terms of males nursing females and so on, all those sorts of issues, which we took on board, worked with Nur Sabil and produced a serious report which had 12 recommendations to improve this situation, and we're now in the process of ensuring those things are put into effect. We have problems with ASB, antisocial behaviour and drug dealing in the area, which we're working hard on in collaboration with the local police and the community groups. We have problems with speeding. And one of the things we've done with that is that the Liberal Democrat group across Calderdale arranged for the funding of a specialist group of police officers who catch speeding people and fine them. That's a thing called Operation Hall Mill, which we arranged the funding for. And it was suggested that the job had been done a year or so ago, but no, we've insisted that money still needs to go into that process. And the number of people which are being captured and their cars taken off them, speeding has been very significant. So there's still a lot to do, but we're making efforts. And as Paul was saying earlier, we punch way above our weight. Given that we're a relatively small party, we do have significant influence and we listen to people, which I think is the important thing there.
I mean, you definitely made a good point here. The objective of the voice, again, going back to that again, is to be HalifaxVoice.co.uk is here to make people aware of the local services that are around our community. So therefore, we are going to become the voice, eyes, and the ears of our local community. So it's people like yourself, who are going to come. You mentioned a few things here, like Sabil. Hopefully I'll get back in touch with you, and we would like to go and interview, investigate further as to how we know we know the objective of Sabil and so forth, so that we can present them using this platform and move forward as well. Anyway, what is
I think just one final point on that. Yes, I'd very much look forward to them getting back in touch, which would be good. And I think the other important point is these things go on all through the year. These issues come up all through the year with individuals and individual issues. And we feel one of our great strengths is that we work all year round in the community. We don't just come knocking on doors or sticking leaflets through doors 2 or 3 weeks before the election hoping to get elected. We work in the ward all through the year. We're available in the ward for people all through the year. And not just people who vote for us. It's quite funny sometimes. You get people who say, well, I've not voted for you, but do you think you could help me with? Well, of course. Whoever's voted for you, if you're the councillor in a ward, you represent all of the people in the ward, not just the people who voted for you. And I think that's an important point to make.
Just a lead-up question to this. How can people get in touch with you if you're saying that you're around all year round? Do you have surgeries? Do you have...
Yeah. We've tried surgeries. People tend not to come to them. We go knock on doors. We talk to people. We communicate through our Facebook page. We have a Whalley Ward Facebook page. We have a list of people, of email addresses people can give to us, and we use that for communicating with people on a regular basis. We promise not to spam them, and we don't spam them, but that's a good way of communicating. The other ways of communicating are to use the email address as a councillor. It's the same format for all councillors. It goes councillor dot and then the councillor's name. So in my case, it's councillor.aevans, all in one word, and then at calderdale.gov.uk, which is the standard format.
Okay.
I also have my mobile telephone number, of course, which is available on that as well, and people can contact me on that, which they do regularly.
Most of our details as well are available on the Calderdale Council website. So if anyone wants to look up their local councillor, they can go on.
Ash on this, and that is related, see if it's recording, that is relating to Palestine. So, okay, Ash, the sentiments and the emotions in the community, especially in Park Ward and Whalley Ward, is around Palestine. And people will be voting on the views that the parties or the individuals have relating to Palestine. So briefly, can you describe your involvement or your activism relating to the the genocide that is happening in Palestine, your political views, because you mentioned in your introduction that you joined the Liberal Party to avoid extremism of the
Mm.
Labour left and the Tory right. So that's something that I've noticed down. So
Yeah.
from this word of extremism, how would you class the current political two-party system of Labour and Tories
Mm.
with reference to
Well,
extremism?
in relation to Gaza and Palestine, what's happening there obviously is totally unacceptable. Because I'm a liberal, in general terms, I feel that everybody has a right to their own self-government, govern their own state, both Palestinians and Jews. There's many things which has gone before in relation to Palestine and Israel, but talking about the current situation, the current crisis was actually instigated by Hamas, not by the Palestinians, but by Hamas, who are designated as a terrorist group. I believe that Israel has a right to defend itself, but what they're doing now is totally unacceptable and does almost amount to genocide. And we cannot condone either action, either Hamas's initial attack or the way in which Israel have responded to it, massively over-responded to it. In that sort of context, we as a Liberal Democrat group have taken action also in council on this. Very quickly, every council meeting there is an opportunity to put forward a motion where we say we're not happy about something or we'd like this to be done about it. On the 14th of February, there was a council meeting and the Liberal Democrat group put forward a motion in relation to this subject. The process, the way it works is that the first political group to put forward a motion come first on the agenda because they were keen enough on the whole process to do something. So we were first on the agenda as far as the motion was concerned before anything had been put forward to do with this by either of the other political groups. And very quickly, let me just quickly read out the motion, which says, this council notes with growing alarm the climbing death toll of Palestinian civilians subject to Israeli bombardment. The systematic destruction of residential buildings, mosques and churches and attacks on hospitals have destroyed Gaza's social infrastructure, leading to a huge number of civilian deaths. The situation in Gaza is profoundly disturbing to many residents of Calderdale who have links with or feel affinity for those directly affected by those who come from Palestine and Israeli communities. Local residents, especially those from the Jewish, Muslim and other faith communities, look to this council to provide civic leadership that expresses these concerns, and that is not evident. And therefore we are asking council to resolve to call on the UK government, specifically through the Foreign and Commonwealth and Development Office, to support an immediate ceasefire, to request that the borough's 2 MPs also support this ceasefire, and we welcome and support displaced Palestinian refugees in Calderdale, as well as being part of the City of Sanctuary, which is something we're doing for refugees in general. So we are specifically asking for actions to be taken and explaining our sincere and heartfelt horror of what is being carried out there. And we were the first party to actually stick our heads above the parapet and say that.
Okay, so
I think that's
leading question here is the question of extremism. Now, you mentioned in your open speeches that you joined the Lib Dems because of the extreme views of Labour and Tory. Would you class the situation and the way the Labour and Conservatives are reacting on the issue of Palestine, are they being too extreme?
I don't think they're being extreme enough, actually, which sounds a bit perverse, but Labour group will say all the right, nice things about supporting Palestinians and the problems they have and all those sorts of things, but they don't actually come out and do and say anything.
No,
I think we're extreme.
Sorry, I think the main question is Keir Starmer's initial statements that stopping the water, food, electricity into Gaza. What's your views on this?
What he was suggesting that should be stopped.
That should be, yeah. If you're politically aware, I mean, Keir Starmer initially he said that we should not. The Palestinians don't have the right to water, electricity, and gas, and he was pro-Israel against.
I cannot believe that. I cannot believe that of that man. I would have thought better of him if he actually said that. I cannot believe it. And of course, it's very simply, it's rubbish, and it's horrible, nasty rubbish to say such a thing. And the Conservatives are just messing about and not really doing anything either. Not really. They're sending Lord Cameron out there to chat to a few people. Again, they're not actually doing anything about it.
Yeah. So I'm really surprised that you don't know the words of Keir Starmer at the beginning of October 7th. Exactly, he mentioned that on LBC, and that I think him being an international lawyer, I think is contradicting himself. He's very hypocritical. That's the views of the general public of Parkwater. Now,
I mean, I obviously missed that specific thing. It's possibly partly due to my lack of general interest in politics, but that is a horrendous thing to say. If he did in fact say that, and I'm not refuting what you're saying, I'm just saying I hadn't heard it. If he did say that, it's totally unacceptable.
I think the difficulty we face at a local level is, and it's what I mentioned to you earlier in a message, is we don't have the power and authority to make those changes and decisions at a national level. All we can do as local councillors is ask our leaders, our CEO of Calderdale, to put forward the messages that we want to get back to government, and that's about it. It's frustrating for us, it really is, that we don't have that power, and we can see what's going on down in London, in Westminster, and what the MPs are doing and the leadership of this country are doing and saying. And as Liberal Democrats, it really frustrates us to the bone that these two, Labour and Conservative, are too busy arguing against each other to score points against each other, rather than actually moving things forward to protect people in other countries. And, I think this is where we differ as Liberal Democrats. We'd be the ones that's doing something rather than talking about something at the end of the day. But unfortunately, at our level in Calderdale, we don't have that power to be able to do that, only for our voice. That's all we've got, is our voice.
Absolutely right. I mean, there's limitations as to what the councillors can do. But the main reason why you are elected is because of your voice. Now, that's a leading question. How have you used your voice for the people of Palestine?
We've done that through listening to people and putting forward that motion.
The motion says it, doesn't it? That's the answer. That's what we can do, and we've done that, and we were the only party to put that forward in the first instance to make that known and make it public.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the motion. You were the first one to put the motion in. So what happened with the motion?
Labour. Do you want to answer it?
You two got Paul, you were there, you as well.
Basically what happened was that our motions get put forward to our administration within the authority, our democratic services, and the other parties then get to see our motion, what we're putting forward. Now, obviously, because we were the first ones to do that, the other parties saw ours first, and then Labour obviously weren't happy that we'd put forward this motion, and then decided to put one together themselves. But what they wanted us to do was to drop our motion totally and support theirs, which to me is like, well, that's a little bit unfair, really, because we've already done the work. We're the ones that's listened to people. We're the ones that's taken it on board for people. And for us to drop it, it's like, what would those people think of us if we said, I'm sorry, but we're not putting our motion forward anymore. We're going to go with Labour's motion. So I said we wouldn't. I said we wouldn't support Labour's motion, but they could put an amendment in to maybe strengthen our motion if they could come up with something good. And if they did that, then we would look to support it. However, Labour's amendment was to totally wipe our motion, totally go against it and put forward replacing it with their motion. No. And because they have the numbers to do that, that is basically what happened, which was unfair because at the end of the day, we're wanting the same thing. But
the important point is also, sorry Paul, the important point is that they did not think of it in the first place. They only saw our motion and thought, oh heck, we better do something on this then, otherwise it's going to make us look bad. They did it as an afterthought and then wanted to take it over.
Okay, now the question, Paul, what you just mentioned here is numbers. Now, can you elaborate a bit about numbers? Why? I mean, can you explain more? What do you mean by numbers? They had the numbers to do it.
Right, because in Calderdale, Labour has the majority of councillors out of the 51 councillors. Conservatives are the opposition party, which means they have the second and largest amount, and then there's us as the Liberal Democrats. With Conservative and us and Independents, we together do not have the numbers to match or have overall say over Labour. We don't have more numbers to I'm trying to get the words right, to be quite honest.
So are you trying to say that the Labour Party bullied you to reject your motion? Is that what they're trying to do?
I won't say bully us, but they used the political power behind their majority to be able to overrule us, basically.
Yeah. It's the party the ordinary one like myself would say that they threw their weight on you and punished you, bullied you to reject your motion. So it's like a schoolboy thing that we are bigger than you, so we're going to bash you around.
There's a danger of that. And I think the bottom line is that currently Labour have more councillors than Conservatives and Liberal Democrats put together, which means they have what's called an overall majority.
Yeah.
If, for example, in Park Ward, if we could get a Liberal Democrat elected in Park Ward, it would mean one more councillor who supports all the things we're talking about here and one less Labour councillor.
Yeah.
You would end up in a situation where Labour didn't have an overall control, which would mean that this is very political stuff, and I'm afraid we have to do this, but that would mean that we could then, they would need our support to do something that they wanted to do, which means that we could influence what they do. So the important thing is that we need to get Liberal Democrat councillors into wards where there are Labour councillors, get rid of a Labour councillor, get a Liberal Democrat in, which will mean that Labour do not have an overall control in the borough and that we can seriously influence things even more than we do at the moment. That's important.
Well said, Evans, but from my analysis, Labour has a majority. The Labour has 28 councillors. Conservatives have about 16 and there's about 6 Lib Dem. Now, the majority that the Labour has is 3 because they need 25 to balance there's 51 councillors.
Sure.
So Park Ward is very important because there are 3 councillors that are elected in Park Ward. So if the Park Ward goes independent, the Labour, because there's 3 councillors in Park Ward, if Park Ward goes independent and the Labour will lose their majority, then whatever independence or whatever Park Ward decides whether they go independent, Lib Dev or Conservative or
Yep.
Green or whatever, yeah, that will reduce the majority of the Labour Party, and then we can have a hung council. Do you think hung council is healthy?
That's the word that's used for it. Yes,
Mm.
where there's no overall control,
Mm.
and that's what we're trying to create, so that we can influence the Labour group more. Yes, if independents get in part, if we manage to get, say, one Lib Dem in, which obviously we'd like to because we believe in ourselves, but there were then two independents who got in, that certainly would mean that Labour didn't have an overall control, and that would, I think, would be very good for people in Parkwood, and I think it'd be good for people in Calderdale.
Yes.
Mm.
So in terms of talking about hung council, so if there was three independent candidates from Park Ward, how would Lib Dem, Ashley and Paul, how would you see them, the independent candidates, you working with the independent candidates from Park Ward?
I mean, we have worked with independent candidates before, but the only thing is, as an independent, you don't have the backing of a national party. You don't have the finances to support you like that. Like you do with a national party, especially when it comes to election time. We have basically, we do follow our party line as well nationally, what they're, what's the word I'm looking for? Their policies and procedures are, at the end of the day, what their manifesto is. And that's the reason why we joined the Liberal Democrats, because we agree with the way they want to run politics with their manifesto. So I would rather see independents join us as a group to obviously make the Liberal Democrats grow, basically, at the end of the day. So it'd be nice to get into a position where we can run the council. I can't see that happening, but again, I'd be happy as having a hung council, because it'd be us that has the balance of power with any decision. At the end of the day, they wouldn't go to if the Conservatives came up with a great idea, for instance, or Labour came up with a great idea, they would not go to the independents and ask for the support. They would usually come to us as Liberal Democrats, because we're the third biggest, or within the council. So it would be down to us at the end of the day. If we've got more numbers than independents, then even if Labour got independents to support them, they probably still wouldn't get what they needed to get through, and vice versa for the Conservatives. So it's ideal, really, if they're going to join something, join us as Liberal Democrats, and then that strengthens the decision processing.
Gives them more power, doesn't it?
It does. It gives us more power. And we'll then go to Labour and say, right, well, I'll tell you what, we'll support this idea of yours if you support us on our idea. And likewise with the Conservatives as well, we'll go with whichever one we think is going to be more beneficial for the people of Calderdale. And that's the best position to be in, really.
Yeah.
And if it did happen, we got some independents, then in the first instance, my first reaction will be, you work with them, you talk to them, you communicate. And okay, they may have some views which are different from yours, and we would have some which are different from theirs, but we would work with them. We could use that extra power to influence what Labour were doing. Obviously, from being tribalistic, if you like, we'd like them to be Liberal Democrats. But if they are, we're very happy to work, as we do with the Greens we work with them on a number of other issues. We have very similar views, actually. It's just that they have the Greens have more of a bias to be very concerned about the way the environment is being treated. Our argument would be, well, we have that view as well, so why do you have to be a Green to look after the environment? But that's a political argument. So what I'm saying is, if there are people other than Labour, we will work with them to the better benefit of the people in that ward.
Yeah,
exactly. There's no reason why the independents can't join us later on down the line if they wanted to.
Well, that's it, yes. They've been politically going forward.
At the moment, there's only one seat available in Park Ward.
Yes.
There's only one seat.
It's one each year.
Yeah. So realistically, real changes on a local level is going to be in 2026, where all 3 seats
Correct.
will be available, and that's
Yeah,
where the real
yeah.
change is going to happen on local politics, and
will.
real
Yeah.
swing is going to happen towards whether it's Labour, Lib Dem, Independents, whatsoever. And I think the organization that we have, Halifax Voice, I want we want volunteers to come forward to the good work that we're going to be doing, especially Paul and Ashley, to listen to our objectives. And the objective, our objective is to amplify the voice of the councillors first. And if they don't come forward, then the Halifax Voice will assume certain things, and then amplify the voice for them, provided the information that we have. So I think this interview has been quite good. Paul, I would definitely need to get some more time of you, and we're a bit conscious on time. Ashley,
Yeah. No, that's fine.
It's been very nice meeting you, and I think this interview has been really good. What are your views, Paul and Ashley, about this setting and interview?
I think at the end of the day, things like this, if they're going to benefit us as a party and get people to understand who we are as people, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
People, we get a lot of, I can say, bad press, bad publicity because of the party that we support, rather than people actually knowing us for who we actually are as individual people.
Yes.
You know, I think if our constituents got to know us more as individuals, they would probably support us more. Do you know what I mean? We'd probably get a hell of a lot more votes. So it's things like this that can help us do that, because people then, constituents of Calderdale, can get a little bit more of an insight as to us as human beings, as people.
That's absolutely right.
Rather than politics.
That's absolutely right, Paul. And I'd like to apologize because I didn't get much information out of you, Paul. I think we need another session, maybe 45 minutes.
No, I mean, the interview was for Ashley anyway, really. I had sort of like...
Yeah. So if you've got any time...
I'm going to have to go, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice
you,
meeting you, Ashley.
Nice
Thanks.
seeing you. All the best.
So
we'll catch up later, Ashley, if we can.
Yeah. Paul, if you've got a bit more time now, we can probably go through some of the questions that I'll let Ashley go first. Yeah.
Right.